Okay, so it's come up. I've read over 200 books in 2025, but I also read over 200 books in 2024. And we're going to talk about how I did it. What up, Search fam? Sade here. Welcome or welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Sade. I'm out here curating and co-creating a cool ass life. And we're going to talk about how I read over 200 books in 2025. Now, whether this is your first time coming across my little corner of the internet or you keep coming back and you haven't subscribed yet, I'm going to invite you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to join my internet family and be made aware of every time I post, which is usually on the weekends. So, as I said, it has come up a few times how I read so many books. And I tried to tell y'all that it's because of the mental illness. But really, no, there are a few things that help me to take down more books than the average human being. And I'm going to share them with you because it really isn't that hard. I have 5 tips for you that are going to help you read more in the next year, should you so choose. Number 1, so let's address the elephant in the room. Okay. And that is that 1, I have a job that requires me to read. So I am a college professor and I read for a living. Now, because I read for a living, does not actually necessarily equate to me being a reader, right? And an avid reader outside of that. So when I talk about how many books I've read, and it's not even as a flex, but just like as a thing, the reality is that I've always been a reader, right? I opt to read over most things. And so we will keep that in mind, but also the fact that I do have a job that allows me and requires me to read and read at a certain pace. Okay. So I think even with that, like, even if I did not read for enjoyment, but I read simply for my work, I probably would read probably close to 50 or more books and articles and things like that just for teaching and doing my research. So I would still read probably a lot more than the average human being. But one of the things that helps me to read as much as I do is that reading for me is a daily occurrence, right? So I read every day. And I would say if you want to read more, that reading every day will help you to do that. And I take my late mentor's advice here when she was talking about writing, that you need to write every day, at least 15 minutes a day to develop a habit of writing. I will say the same thing for reading. So I tell people, especially those who say that they don't have time to read or they just don't like to read that much, I would say that 15 minutes a day of reading is going to make you a more consistent reader, as well as a more literate human being. It's going to make you a better thinker. It's going to make you a better reader to read more. Like, it's just a habit, a muscle that you have to work, right? And so I think for me, if you make reading like part of your morning routine, right, or your evening routine, either of those is really good. Starting the day out 15 minutes of reading, or ending your day before you go to bed, not with a screen, but with a book, that's going to make sure that you are reading every day and that it becomes a part of your routine. Secondly, to couple with that, as I said, reading is one of my hobbies. I make it a priority to read. And so if you want to read more, you have to make it a priority. And I think by placing it as part of your morning or evening routine, that is going to help you to do that, to make reading a priority. And so I think it also helps make it attainable, because it's not about binge reading 3-4 books in a weekend or whatever. It is about, Fairy tortoise and the hare, slow and steady wins the race. Pick a book and say, I'm going to read this book this month, and read it in the mornings, and, sit with it. And by the end of the month, you probably can get through at least one book, right? And that sort of starts your life of reading by making reading a part of your life. Next, I read across genres. Reading across genres helps me for when I get burnt out on a trope or on a style of writing. I just switch, right? I switch genres. I read a set of psycho thrillers for, I don't know, a month and a half, and then I get burnt out on it, and then I need fluffy romances, or I'll do historical books, documentary type things. I also read across modalities, right? So if I find that I've been doing a lot of audiobooks and then I'm tired of listening, I pick up a digital book. If I'm reading a digital book and I get tired of staring at my screen, I'll pick up a physical book, right? And so reading across modalities helps you to, one, for me, get through books, because there are books that I enjoy, but the beginning is slow. And I'm one of those people that if I pick up a book and I start physically reading it and it doesn't catch me within like the first chapter, if I'm being generous, then I'm going to put it down and I'm not going to read it. And so there have been a couple of books to where it took me a long time to finish it. But when I read it as an audiobook, because I was able to get through the parts that were a little bit slower to get into, it helped me to get through the book and get to the parts where I'm like, okay, I'm now invested. And so sometimes I will listen to part of a book and then finish it reading. So when I read Song of Achilles, I did most of it during the audiobook. I did with Song of Achilles and then The Emperor and the Endless Palace. I did both of those as audiobooks for the most part. But by the time I got to the end of the book, because I was reading them during my walks, I had to finish it in physical form because I'm like, I gotta fit. Not too much. And so being able to go back and forth between the modalities and across genres helps me to stay engaged with reading as a consistent practice. Finally, I will say, read with your friends. There's nothing like having book friends, and I'm not going to even say that as an exaggeration, because most of my closest friends are also readers. So we share books between one another. And I think sharing books with people and reading books with people at the same time, co-reading, helps you to stay invested in reading. Because I know there have been a number of times where one of my friends will be like, so Jackie is notorious for this. If I suggest something to Jackie that I'm finishing, she reads faster than I do, which is saying something. And so we did this with the Clacanian series. I was like on book 4, and she finally picked it up. And within 3 days, she was on book 5. And so when I thought I was going to put down the series, because she's reading it too, and we're in conversation, I kept reading and I kept reading. And so, and read quickly because we were texting each other at 2 a.m. The same thing with Spoken. Like Spoken will start a book. She'd be like, you need to read this book. And I said, fine, I'll read it. And so I read it. And then I'm texting her and I'm just like, girl. And so we're able to commentate on the book together. And that is so much fun. There is nothing better than calling someone at 3 a.m. after you have binge finished a book and you're distressed and distraught. And all you got to say is, girl. And your friend responsible, I know, I told you, right? And so I think things that help make reading more fun and inviting, like reading with your friends, is going to help you to read more. So I went before you long now. Hello, somebody. But I hope that these tips, and I'm sure they seem very simple, but sometimes you need to be told the simple thing to know that it is not rocket science for you to become a better thinker, a better reader, more intelligent, whatever. So as always, friends, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend about the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.